In this lesson, we find out that generic collections can provide us some great features. The objectives for this lesson are to create a generic collection, add items to the collection, remove items from the collection, learn how to locate data within the collection. Let's get started. There are some great features of generic collections. The main one being that you're creating a collection that is type safe, so only the data type you specify can be added to that collection. They also have a set of methods that allow you to add, change, and remove items from collections really easily. And also searching is incredibly easy using some great Lambda expressions. To provide some contrast, let's go ahead and take a look at just a simple array first, then we'll take a look at using generics. Here we have a product array starting on lines 3 through 14. I called it products and I just added 3 product objects inside of it. Now we can then iterate over that collection to display each one on lines 16 through 19. But let's say you wanted to add a new product. From lines 23 through 34 is what it takes to do that. You actually have to declare a whole new array, add one to that size, copy all the old values to the new array, and then add the new item into that last position, and then again, display them all again. If you want to remove one, it's kind of the opposite. You have to create an array of the size -1. You then have to iterate over it, but check for which index number you wish to delete. So there's a lot of code here just to add, edit, delete, things like that in an array that is not going to be necessary when we start using generic collections. So let's take a look at how we create a generic list. On line 3, we create list, less than sign, and then what data type we want, in this case, product. And then products equals new, and then we add our 3 product objects into that collection, or however many you're going to do. There's then a count property on the products collection that we can then access to see how many items are in that collection. And then, of course, we can iterate over that collection and display each one. Now let's see where the real power of generic lists come in. This is when we start adding data and removing data. Let's start out and look at adding data to the collection. Once you have a collection of data, you can add using the add method on that collection. So line 16, we do products.add, and then we specify what we want to add. In this case, I'm going to create a new product object with a product ID of 4. When you do this, the item that you add always goes to the end of the collection. Now, if you wish to insert into a certain location, you may do that. You do a products.insert, and then the first parameter is the location where you wish to insert that particular new item that we're creating here, a new product with a product ID of 5. If we run this, you'll see now that it comes out at bike helmet is 0, brake pads is 1, pedals is 2. It inserts at that position, and then everything else comes out afterwards. Now again, think of the code you would have had to write to do this as an array. Now there's one more thing that we can do here, and that is we can add a range of data. So maybe you have one collection of products, and then you have a second collection of products, and you wish to add them together. We can do a products.addRange, and then here you can see my new list that I've created of products, and I've got 3 additional products that I'm adding in here. And if we then run this, we see that we now have a larger list built out of 2 different lists. Let's now take a look at a few different ways to remove data from the collection. Take a look at line 39, products.remove. And then what we need to do with the remove is tell it the actual instance of which one we want to remove. So if you do a product subscript 1, it's going to return this one right here, right? Because that's 0, that is 1, and that's the instance of that product ID. So the remove says, I'm expecting you to pass me a product item that I can match up with that pointer in memory, and I will then remove it. So if we go ahead and run this, we can see that that element at element 1 has now been removed. Another way to do it is to actually specify remove at, and you give it a real number. So this tells it to remove at that specific index. So if we run this, the same one is removed because that was the one at the index number 1. You can also remove a range as well if you want. So when you say remove range here, it says index, where you want to start at, and how many to remove. So if we go ahead and run this, we can see now that we removed a couple of them in there, and that's exactly what we asked it to do. So lots of different ways that you can remove items from a collection. With an array, if you wanted to find a specific item in the collection, you would always have to iterate over that collection and compare each item against some criteria. With generics, we can actually find an item in the collection using a Lambda expression. Let's take a look. There are many methods attached to generic lists. One of them is called find. And find allows you to put in a Lambda expression within the find method, and it will actually perform that operation on each line in the list for you automatically. So in this case, I'm saying pass into the find each row, and then there's the arrow syntax equals greater than sign. And it says compare this against row.productID is equal to 2. So it's looking at each item in this collection and finding where the product ID is equal to 2. And as soon as it finds it, it returns that value and stops the iteration. So then we are returned a single row that we put into this product entity. So if we run this, we can see where we found the product ID is equal to 2. Now, other things you can do with the find is you could also do something like name.contains, and this will work as well. Maybe you want to find all of those that have bike in the name. That's fine, but let me show you what happens here. Actually still only ever returns a single row of data. So it may have found multiples, but what it does is it just returns the first one that it finds. Well, what if you wanted to return multiple values? Well, there's many ways to do that. Let's take a look at one of the ways of getting a subset of data. Instead of using a find, we're going to use the where method. Again, we pass in a Lambda expression to locate all those items that match this criteria. So in this case, we're going to pass in each row, and we're going to say row.name.contains bike. And this will return us a subset now of the whole products collection. And if we run this, we can see we found 3 items in that whole collection that had bike in the name. So where, find, there are so many. There's select, there's so many methods on this. Now that's a topic for another video, actually. That would be something more you'd want to look up link, L-I-N-Q, and you'll see a lot of ways that you can manipulate collections. In this lesson, we created a generic collection of product objects. We added products, we removed products, we located a single product, and we extracted a subset of products. Coming up next, create your own class libraries.